All right, Allison and Alex, pleasure to have you guys on here. I'll turn it over to Allison. You can quarterback this thing and introduce our expert panelist, Alex, right there. Guys, like I said, let's continue the Q&A conversation over the next hour. We will field those questions, and let's kick this off. Allison, there you go.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Allison Griffin. I am coming from the education team here at Snap One, and super excited to share some exciting things about the Radiance product here with you. Alex is also with us. He is the product manager. He knows all the things about Radiance. So as I go through the content, they're going to kind of field questions in the Q&A. So feel free to put those questions in there, and then we will have time at the end for more questions. So Alex, did you want to say anything before I get started?
Just really briefly, thanks for letting us be with you today. I know you guys got busy schedules. This is a really, really exciting product. I've worked on products for most of my career, and this has got to be in the top 2 or 3 is kind of the coolest and not just cool, but, kind of industry changing and revolutionary. So I'll let Allison take you through it. And if you have any questions, I'll be monitoring the chat live. So feel free to send them our way.
All right, let's get started. So today's agenda, we will be going over the Radiance system, giving you some specs on each component of that. Also, we'll be talking about planning and installation and lighting and audio control. So some of you may know a little bit about Radiance already. Some of you may be brand new here. We're just curious, wanted to start off with a quick little poll and see what you're most excited about if you know a little bit about the Radiance family. There's a QR code here on your screen that you can scan with your mobile devices, or you can go to menti.com and enter this code. So let's see what everyone's most excited about. Is it the MB1? Is it lighting and audio on a single wire? Is it 360-degree sound, an all-in-one system, upsell opportunities, or maybe you're brand new and you don't know yet? So let's see. Okay, lighting and audio on a single wire, definitely awesome technology. Will take about 15, 20 more seconds to get your answers in. All right. So it looks like everyone is excited about lighting and audio on a single wire, which is a really awesome technology we're going to share with you today. The all-in-one system is super easy install, and there is one person that doesn't know yet, and they're here to learn. So glad you're here, and let's get into it. So what is Episode Radiance? Well, there's nothing on the market right now like Episode Radiance, as many as you may know. This product line is a family of outdoor bollard speakers, low voltage lighting, and accessories. Radiance is modular in that lighting can be added to speakers or speaker blanks for flexible placement and usage, and the line itself can be scaled or adapted to projects nearly any size using a daisy chain approach like any normal 70-volt audio system. It's designed and engineered to enhance not only the entertainment value for customers, but also enhance safety, security, and improve the overall aesthetics of any outdoor space, with ultimate flexibility not only at the time of install, but in any moment, you can move sound and light around with these modular components. So Radiance is a revolutionary family of products with our exclusive patent pending technology by Swarm, and it combines what you all said you're excited about is audio and low voltage lighting on a single standard 2-conductor burial wire. So Radiance is first of its kind. It is an outdoor entertainment system that combines those two on one single wire. And this is really going to shake up the industry. So hope you all are getting very excited. We are part of the future here today. So this technology is also nearly indestructible. It is made of die-cast zinc, IP66 rated, and then also all of the components come in black or white, which we will go through. So that's your big 30,000-foot view of what the system is. Now let's dig a little deeper at what components make up the Radiance system. So The Radiance system is a combination of up to 7 components, which are mostly outdoors. I'm going to go through each component, give you some specs, and diagram how the connections are made. So let's get started. This is the heart of our system. It is the MB1, the magic box processor that utilizes ACE technology designed by Swarm to combine audio and lighting signals and outputting both of those over one 2-conductor wire that can be connected in series, which simplifies any installation. The MB1 is a passive filter box. It has no power cord, and it transmits audio above 140 hertz and lighting below 140 hertz. So that's how it works. And it must be used with a DSP amplifier to keep the audio and the lighting separate so that they are traveling on their own lanes on this 2-lane highway. So we'll get into the details on the amplifier, but the MB1 is definitely the technology we are super excited about. And it also has an IP66 rating and has those caps for fuse protection on the box. So let's take a look at the back of it a little bit closer. So we've labeled the connectors so that you know exactly which cable goes where. I'm going to go around this clockwise, starting with the fuse reset button, and just give you a quick note on what these things are. But again, this is super easy. It's labeled for you. So the fuse set, the button pops out if there's an over current event. All you have to do is press back in to reset it. Then the 2-conductor wire on the output that will support up to 500 watts of audio and 300 watts of lighting. We will go into that a little more. Moving around this clockwise again, we have the input, the 70-volt audio, and that's where the hybrid amplifier will be plugged into. Next, we have LED indicators. So we got light, audio, and a fault error. So when there's a connection, when there's light signal, audio signal, those will light up. And when there is an overcurrent event or the temperature is too hot, the fault error LED will light up. And then finally, we have the input, which is the light input, and that's where you will connect your light transformer. So that's the first part of the system. That component is required. And let's go into what is the next important part of a system, a Radiance system. And that is the lighting transformer. The lighting transformer is going to supply the power for the lights. So that is going to be connected to the MB1. And Radiance is compatible with aftermarket off-the-shelf lighting transformers that operate at 12 volt to 15 volt AC and up to 300 watts. Snap does have a product called FX Luminaire, 2 different kinds, but again, you can use any off-the-shelf. There's an example here from Home Depot that only runs about $140. So you can use any of these. They just need to support up to 300 watts and then 12 volt to 15 volt AC power. And one thing to note here is that the Radiance system will not support dimming and it will not support color temperature change. So just remember that, and we will remind you later too, but make sure to always turn off the transformers when you are making these connections. All right, next up in our Radiance system is a hybrid amplifier. So we do recommend our episode hybrid 1000 or 2000 amp, but we'll go into a little bit more information on that. And that is going to connect to the audio 70 volt input on the MB1. So the hybrid amplifier supports 8 ohm on one channel and 70 volt on the other. So that will connect to the subs and the MB1. So we do have these 2 versions here at Snap that are made by episode. You must use the DSP parameters. Cannot stress this enough. If there's anything that you remember this, you have to use these settings, which can be found on snapav.com. So online, there are the files, parameters, and how to add DSP settings to an amplifier. And the reason why you must do this is so that it ensures that the light and the audio will stay separate. So for example, when music is playing, you do not want lights blinking. So making sure that the DSP settings are enabled on these amplifiers will be very important to make sure that the system is working properly. If you aren't using a hybrid amp, there is a document that explains what settings you need to use online. But we have two great options here. We do recommend using the episode amplifiers, and you have the two different options there on the screen. All right, so now moving into the more fun stuff. The next component is the Radiance subwoofer. So for this, we recommend at least one per system, and you can use 12 gauge burial wire to support a run to up to 300 feet, which would be more than enough length that you would need here. You do want to make sure that you use the appropriate gauge wire for this so that there isn't signal loss. And since the sub is 8 ohm, line loss is more significant. So just keep that in mind. Let's talk about the options you have here with the sub. So this subwoofer has a waterproof rotomolded enclosure. It also has the die-cast zinc. It is built to withstand the elements outside. It can actually be installed on the ground. You can mount it on a surface, or you can bury it up to the 10-inch speaker line at the top. So we recommend one subwoofer to support about 8 speakers on a system, and and again, just a reminder that at least one per system. This is the biggest component in the Radiance system. So it's about 40 pounds, but imagine like an outdoor little tool table or like end table or stool, like that's how large it is. So it can definitely be buried or can sit on the ground, but it will make it sound so much better. So make sure that you include one in a system. All right, so now we're getting to the last parts here. All of the connections are made to the mounts. So you're going to connect this 2-conductor wire from the MB1 to your mounts, and I'm going to go through what kind of mounts you have. But these mounting accessories include wire tails and exterior grade silicone filled wire nuts to waterproof the physical connection points. So let's talk about what different kind of mount options you have with the system. Before we talk about that, again, want to remind you, because this is the part that people get a little confused by because it's modular. So you are connecting all of the wiring directly to the mounts, not to the lights, not to the speakers. It's going directly to the mounts. And every mount comes with one of these protective rubber hammer caps. So we recommend you could leave the rubber cap in place during construction, and it will protect the mount from dirt and water. And then you can remove it once the speaker or the light is installed. Also, for one of our mounts, which is an in-ground stake mount, it works great to hammer it in and protect, the wires and everything inside. So we offer 4 different kinds of mounts. All the mounts are made from die-cast zinc and are designed to withstand the elements, again, with an IP66 rating. All mounts come in either black or white. So the options you have here is our surface mount. You can install that on the deck or any horizontal surface. Wall mount that can be mounted up or down. The in-ground stake comes, again, all of them come with the rubber hammer cap. And then the pendant mount is an optional mounting accessory designed to attach to an overhang or the ceiling, or to a standard in-ceiling round junction box. And it does include a 3-meter cable. So these are your 4 options for the mounts. And I also have a picture to show you what they look like installed. So again, the surface mount, the wall mount, the in-ground stake mount, and the pendant mount. And the first 3 are all the same price. The pendant mount is just a little bit more, but Still not very bad for this system. Okay. Moving along to the next component in our system are the speakers. So after you connect the mounts, the Radiance system is fully connected. Now it would be time to add the modular twist and lock speakers and lights. And I'm gonna start by going into the speakers. So each mount can have a light on it, a speaker on it, or both of them, or it could just have a speaker blank with a light on top. So let's look at the speakers and the customization you have with those. All right, so the outdoor bollard speakers, when paired with the Radiance subwoofer, the 3-inch driver delivers full range audio performance. These speakers sound really good. It also radiates sound in a 360-degree wide dispersion pattern, which is going to have better coverage and no hot spots. So even when it's mounted right side up or upside down, that 360-degree sound is still going to sound really great. And then you're also no longer limited to putting speakers around the perimeter of your yard with our system. The Radiance speakers and lights radiate in that 360-degree pattern, which gives you more flexibility in placement, like along a pathway. You also can select 2 watts, 4 watts, 8 watts, or 16 watts. And think of this as an adjustable volume control for each individual speaker. So if you need it louder around a pool or quieter along a walkway, you have that flexibility on each speaker. So you can adjust those tap settings on each speaker on the bottom. And then they're super modular and easy to install. So again, once you have the mounts connected, all you do is twist these into your mount and the connection's made and they will work. So that is one of the best things. So if you are designing a plan and you don't want speakers in every spot, but you want it to look the same, then we also have speaker blanks. So these blanks can be used to help with spacing needs or for aesthetics or for lighting only. So again, no speaker in it. It's just a blank and it has a light on top, but it keeps, with the flow and keeps it looking clean and nice, even if you don't need that many speakers every so often there. All right, we are in the last part of the system, which is the light. So lights can be installed again on speakers, speaker blanks, or on mounts. And these are the options we have here. So again, you cannot change the temperature and you cannot dim these lights, but you do have different settings, which is a manual setting on the bottom of the bollard light, where you can choose to turn on the up light, which is the spotlight. It is 150 lumens, or you can choose to turn on the ring light, which will be more of a down light, and you can turn on both if you would like. So the color temperature is 2700 Kelvin, and if you're using both lights, that's going to be about 7 watts. So we're going to get into some planning in a moment, but just to let you know that, this is a pretty easy system and you can kind of choose. And this also allows the clients, the customers, if they wanted to change, to a spotlight or a ring light after the original plan. We know customers change their minds a lot. Then it's easy as like twisting it off and just changing that toggle on the bottom. So that's really a nice feature. All right, so the burial wire is the last piece of the system because obviously it all needs to connect. And this wire is referring to the type that you need that will go from the MB1 to the mounts. This burial wire is going to be determined by the lighting, total lighting power. And I'm going to go into detail in that in a moment, but just know that the burial wire is determined, like what kind you need is going to be determined upon, it's going to be determined by your lighting load based on how many lights and the light settings that you're going to use in the Radiance system. The wiring must be direct burial rated, and 14 gauge should handle most applications, and you could use 14.4 or 14.2. This table here on the screen can be found in the installation manual that's online. So that's a great thing to reference. Again, this is going to be based on the total lighting power. Okay, so it has nothing to do with audio. It's dependent upon the lighting power. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. All right, so that's a wrap on the episode Radiance system. These are the components that you need, up to 7, to create a beautiful all-in-one system with audio and lighting passing through a single wire from the MB1. If you want to take a screenshot of this diagram, I'll pause for a few seconds and let you do that. Again, these slides will be coming out later, but this is your system and what you will need to install. And as you can see, it's super easy. So should be a great opportunity for some of you that are, expanding and going to incorporate this landscape lighting and audio system for some clients. All right, so the next, if you are curious just about how much the system costs, if you have one system with 8 mounts, 8 speakers, 8 lights, 1 sub, and 1 MB1, that's going to run around 8,000 MSRP. And if you do use our FX Luminaire basic lighting transformer and our episode hybrid amplifier, that will, you're looking at about 10,000 MSRP. All right, part 1 is complete. So now let's get into the part that many of you probably are curious about and want to have some ideas around. How do I plan a system, and what do I need to know for installing a system now that we know all the parts? So there are 4 steps to installing and planning out a Radiance system. Step 1 is going to be your layout, mapping out your speakers, your blanks, your lights, your subwoofers, and your mounts. Step 2 is going to be calculating your light and speaker tap settings. And this will be so that you can determine what kind of burial wire you need, what kind of transformer you need, and just to make sure that you're not exceeding the maximum wattage load allowed from the MB1. Step 3 is going to be using those. Oh, that's exactly what I just said, step 3. And then step 4 is your installation and planning for user control. So speaker spacing, we recommend spacing these between 6 and 12 feet apart. And then based on the spacing, you can use those tap settings to make that volume a little bit higher. And this should be easy for installing along fences. And again, between 6 and 12 feet is the distance you want to keep for speakers. All right, so let's map out. I'm going to go through an example here, and we're going to map out the speakers, the blanks, the lights, the subwoofers, and the mounts. So first, we want to start by, well, I'm going to start replacing my subs because I already know that this project is going to have more than 8 speakers, so I'm going to need 2 subs. So for the best audio quality, we recommend placing the subs near a wall. And in this project, I'm going to place the subs here. These blue circles are my subs. So I'm going to put one over here on the back side of the house on the left side and the back side on the right side. And those are going to connect back to my hybrid amplifier in the house. Okay, next, let's add speakers with lights. So those are going to be the green circles. And I have placed these speakers and lights around the pool, the outdoor dining areas, where I want, sound playing. So I've got 3 here around this dining area, 4 over here, and then these are a little further spaced apart are going to go along the fence here by the pool. And those are going to be speakers and lights. All right, now along this lighting path and over on the corner of the lawn, I am planning to have some lights, but I want to use speaker blanks. So you can do this anyway that works for you to plan this out, but I just identified speaker blanks by making it have an outline. So these lights, I don't want them to be on the mount. I want them to be on a blank so that they match the design and it all flows. So I'm including five speaker blanks with lights. Okay, and now I need to determine how many mounts do I need. So I am going to need a total of 16 mounts. The back wall here, I'm putting these are going to be wall mounts, and then the rest of them are going in the ground. So I've got 4 wall mounts, 12 in-ground stake mounts. So we've mapped everything out. Where do we want lights, speakers and lights, speaker blanks, and then our subs. Okay, and you also want to plan for where the MB1 and the lighting transformer can go. Like those should be out of sight, but those can be, you know, maybe over here in this corner, depending upon where this all could be installed and set up. But those are usually installed side by side. So that might be a good spot here over in this corner, but certainly want to keep it out of sight. Maybe over here on this side of the house or this side of the house would be an option as well. Next, we are going to calculate our light and speaker tap settings. So I'm going to start with the lights. There's no particular order you need to go in here, but once you've mapped out where all of your speakers, all of your lights are going to be, how many bollards and how many blanks, how many mounts, now we need to calculate the tap settings because this is going to determine barrel wire, transformer, and then of course to make sure that we're not exceeding the maximum load from our MB1. Okay, so starting with the lights. In my plan, I am going to use both lights on most of these. So just a reminder, the light wattage, you may want to just always budget for 7 watts. It is not like, it's going to be very hard to exceed the maximum that we've allowed from the MB1 and in the system. So you could just plan for that always if that's easy to remember. Also, clients, again, you know, they're going to change their mind. They might decide they want to turn both of them on later. So for this example, just to show you, I've planned out that the lights by the pathway are just going to use the ring light. And then I have one spotlight over in the corner of the lawn, but the rest of them are all going to be 7 watts. So they're going to be set to use both the uplight and the downwash ring light. So this, if we have 7 or 13 of them set at 7 watts, that's 91 plus 1 set at 4.5 for the spotlight, and then 2 set for the ring light setting, that's going to be 5 watts. So this comes out to 100.5 watts with, let's see. Okay, so we are well below the maximum because the MB1 does support 300 watts for lighting. And if you are factoring in that 20% headroom, really the maximum that we want to use is about 240 watts. So again, we're still well below this with 16 lights on a system, which is a lot of lights, 100.5 watts. Okay, so now we're going to calculate the speaker voltage. So we need to determine the individual tap settings for each speaker. And in this project, the speakers by the pool are spaced farther apart, and they also need to be louder because they're by a louder area. So let's tap those to 16 watts. So we have 4 tapped at 16. And then the rest of them, let's just set them at 8 watts because they're going to be by these dining areas. So we have 4 at 16, and then I believe 7 at 8 watts. Okay, so with 7 speakers tapped at 8 watts and 4 speakers tapped at 16 watts, this comes out to 120 watts. And our maximum that we are allowed with an MB1 is 500 watts. So again, if we factor in that headroom of about 100 watts, 20%, then we don't want to exceed 400. And again, we are well below that here with 120 watts. All right, so now we have mapped it out. We've calculated our numbers. Now we need to use the calculations to choose what kind of wire gauge do we need to connect the mounts that is coming from the MB1, and then what outdoor light or how much power do we need supplied by an outdoor lighting transformer for those lights. So in this example, again, remember your burial wire is going to be determined by the lighting load. Okay, so in this project, we have 16 lights and we are using about 100 watts. Our project total distance is 120 feet. So referencing back to this chart that again is located in the installation manual that can be found online. If I'm going, the project's 120 feet, my wattage is 100.5. So that means I'm going to need 12 gauge burial wire. And then my lighting transformer should be at least 200 watts, just so that, again, I'm allowing for that headroom for that lighting load. Okay, now I know that was a really quick lesson, but I'm going to pause. I'm going to give you guys and gals and who all is with us here today, but I'm going to give you about 2 minutes. See if you can determine how many Radiance speakers and lights are possible if you have a system with all lights set to ring and spotlight, that's using 7 watts, all speakers tapped at 16 watts. You have a 300 watt lighting transformer. The project total distance is 100 feet, and you want to use 14 gauge burial wire. So I'm going to pause, take 1 or 2 minutes. How many speakers and lights would be possible with these parameters? All right, let's see if you got it right. So based on a system using 14 gauge burial wire, 100 feet, 300 watt lighting transformer, all speakers tapped to 16 and all lights tapped to both lights, which uses 7 watts. That means that we would be able to use up to 80 watts of lighting for a lighting load based on the chart with 14 gauge wire in that distance. So taken that we have 80 watts to use, if we divide that by 7, then we could have 11 lights on the system. And for the speakers, we have a 500 watt maximum from our MB1. So keeping in mind that headroom, so really we have 400 watts available. Take that, divide by 16 watts for each setting or each tap setting on the devices, then we would have the ability to install 25 speakers in this system. So again, these maximums, you are likely not going to reach them, but just thought it would be helpful for you to see. And again, that chart is going to be super helpful. Keep in mind that the burial wire is based on, and the wire that you need to use from the MB1 is based on the lighting load, not the audio, but the lighting load. All right. The last step of planning a system is installing it and thinking about the plan for user control, which I'm going to go in more detail, but just a couple of notes on installation. You do, these will be run in parallel and you'll daisy chain the speakers and lights together, or the mounts together. Just best practice is to make sure your transformer and amp are off when you're making those connections. You want to use your discretion with placement. Again, these are going to withstand the elements and they are built to be okay in all the outside environments. But you know, don't mount them next to a sprinkler if you don't have to. Also, hide the transformers and the MB1 from plain sight. They're not pretty. I mean, you might think they're pretty. The customer may not think they're pretty. So just make sure that they're out of sight. And then use that protective rubber cap to cover the mount connections before installing. Or keep them, you know, if it rains, those caps are nice to use as you're installing before you put on the lights or the speakers. And then place your subs next to a wall for best results. So for audio control and lighting control, remember, these are two separate things. They are running completely separate of one another. They are not controlled together. So audio is controlled and lighting is controlled. You have two options for audio control. I'm going to go into these, but episode link and control 4. And then lighting control is really dependent upon your transformer. And I'm going to go into details there as well. Control 4 is also a way for the client to control the lighting. So let's talk about that a little bit more. Lighting and audio control. First, let's start with the lighting control. So those transformers, you may be familiar, pretty much the more expensive the transformer, the more fancy the settings are the more you can customize and do with it. So some of the options include your typical timers that, you know, turn on your lights at a certain time. Some of them allow schedules. Some of them have astronomical timing. So it's based on, you know, the sunrise, moonrise, and all that. And then some of them also have manual control. So if the client wanted to come over and actually tap a button to turn them on. So again, any aftermarket lighting transformer will work with this system. And based on your client's needs, you can choose the best transformer. Of course, that will support the lighting load that you've determined by your system design. The other option is control 4. You can physically connect the lighting transformer to a switch for on and off control, but just remember that this system does not support dimming and it does not support light temperature change. So it's the only control you have here is on or off. All right, for our audio control, one great option if the client doesn't have control 4 is the episode link. So this is a small box that will connect to your amplifier. I think that's right. Alex, may want to double confirm that. The episode link allows people to play music from mobile devices. Oh yeah, sorry. It does connect to the amplifier. And there is OverC integration, also enables voice control from the mobile devices. So if you have a single zone for audio, Link is going to be your best bet here. And if you want to have multiple zones, then control 4 is going to be your best option. So you would connect the hybrid amplifier to a triad audio matrix switch, and then you would be able to control it that way for the customer, and then connect, you know, multiple zones. All right, so that was a lot of information, and I know that you're digesting it. I'm sure many of you have questions. I know there's been a few questions coming in. So before we go into the Q&A, I do have one more question for you all on your commitment over the next 60 days. So again, you can scan this QR code or you can go to menti.com and enter the code. But we're just curious to know, you know, based on what you know now about the system, where you stand as far as the next 2 months. What is your goal going to be? So is it A, purchasing a Radiance system to install in my home or business? B, stocking up on Radiance so you're ready for your first install? Is it C, pitching this product family to a customer? Is it D, installing a Radiance system for a control 4 client? Or E, installing a Radiance system for a non-control 4 client? So I'll put this here. You can still scan that code. Take another minute just to see. And thank you for participating in the poll. For those of you that are, really appreciate that. Okay, we have a couple that are going to install a system in the next 2 months. That's exciting. All right, and we're pitching it to customers. So yeah, it really, I think, sells itself just because it looks so nice and it's super modular. And of course, the install is easy. All right. Awesome. Okay. Well, we will now go into a Q&A. I know that I covered a lot, but I'm sure there are questions maybe about some specific details or things that weren't answered in that long spiel. Thank you again for being with us today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then I'll let you guys.
I don't know, maybe not stop share, because we might go back to some reference on those slides. No, Allison,
Okay.
that was fantastic. I do
Oh,
these
thank
every
you.
week, and let me tell you guys, I hope you're as excited as I am about that presentation. Not only because obviously it's our own product, but the competency of what you just went over was fantastic. Look at our
Thank you.
Snap One. Yeah, you did an excellent job, guys. And Alex, I mean, this is a really exciting product. I know you guys were in Europe recently, showing off in Spain, and we talked about how we kind of launched it, if you will, at CEDIA. But to have this in all one package, and you covered a lot of familiar, hallmarks of what these guys are going through. I love the grids in there. I love the calculations in there. I think that this deck is going to be really useful and incite more questions. I loved when we went into the Q&A when you were asking us, hey, given these parameters, what would be the setup? And that's really important for these guys. It's not even about sticker shock, or is this going to be a $10,000 system? It's more, here are my parameters. I think I've got the client for this. You know what? I'm a little bit surprised that the non-C4 client was a little low there, because most of my audience, it's not that they're not dealing with C4 clients, but remember, the Snap One Partner Store guys, these are regular end users, so that might not be part of that, but it's just still good to see the interaction there. So you can tell I'm totally excited by this. I'm going to take this slide deck and continue to get this out to the greater masses over the next couple of weeks. So definitely expect some two-way conversations going back and forth. You know what? One thing I can ask a question about really quick. You brought in the Effects Luminaire component, right? And Alex here too. Remember, we launched, or we partnered, if you will. We brought the Effects Luminaire line into the Snap One Partner Stores as well. So how does that why did you put that one component in there? What's the relationship? Is that something that would be built on a hybrid system where they already had Effects Luminaire and we can integrate our Radiance product in there? Can you elaborate more on that?
I can take that one. We're compatible with any aftermarket lighting transformer, and the fact that we distribute and partner stores distribute FX Luminaire, it just made sense to put that in there. But that's not always going to be the case. So you might have that Hampton Bay situation where somebody wants to only spend a couple $100 for something that's maybe not as smart as the FX Luminaire. Doesn't have the scheduling and that sort of thing. Maybe just has a license or an on-off time.
Right.
So it just kind of gives you the gamut, because a lot of those dumb transformers cannot be automated. FX Luminaire has some automation capabilities, and we've even built a driver through Control4 where you can turn on and off the FX Luminaire through the Control4 system. Just kind of as an additional bit there. So that's kind of a long answer to your question, but
no, I got it. I mean, like in the case where the Effects Luminaire might have a lot more dimming options and or color options, what happens in our world? Is it just not visible? Like when you wrote that driver, and just, those aren't applicable to that system?
No, you need to make a conscious decision not to turn on those functions, because it's just not supported at this time. Having shown this product in multiple shows, three of the most common things that people asked for were, can it dim? Can it change the color? Can I use aftermarket lights and not just these lights? All of these things we knew would be we knew these at the beginning of the project. But this is quite a technical marvel to be able to accomplish what we've done so far. We know that we need to be able to support those things in the future, and we will. But right now, our step into this is, basically combining lighting and audio on one wire. And this system and this technology will allow us to do so much more as we go into the future.
Nice. Well, I like the fact that you're calling it a technical marvel, because that's what we expect from you, Alex. I mean, come on now, you are the superhero here. No, okay, really a couple quick questions before we turn it over into this Q&A. I love the Q&A here. Alex, the simple design with, the aesthetic, have you tested through, matter getting into that speaker system with the holes, like in Arizona, small sand around a landscape scenario and the wind? What happens there? Can it be cleaned out?
So it's got its own natural cleaning mechanism. When you turn the volume up, it tends to blow stuff out of there.
Blows the stuff out of there, right?
Yeah, we've got weeping holes in there for water to make sure that the water doesn't accumulate. And if some water does settle in there, you just turn it on, it'll splash it out. Waterproofing is probably the biggest challenge, apart from just the combining of the audio and lighting. Knowing that landscape lighting just traditionally has a bad reputation for water getting in. It added about 6 months to the project to be able to, you should see the water testing chamber that we have with, like literally dozens of lights with sprinklers spraying 24/7 on them to make sure and ensure that we get great waterproofing.
Alex has to take off his white coat and put on his wetsuit for that testing, obviously.
Yeah, and then if it does fail, every product has some failure. It's modular. You just twist it and put it back on. So a truck roll might happen, but it's a 15-second truck roll, not a digging things out of the ground and replacing them. It's literally twisting off a light or twisting off a speaker, twisting it back on, click, and you're done.
Well, I like you when you mentioned truck roll, because that's always our common denominator, what makes profitability or not. Yeah. Hey, really quick, another quick question. Allison, you had on your graphic, when we were talking about mounts, we were talking about that back part of the system. Do we compensate for the fact that that's mounted up against a wall and that speaker is 360 and it's bouncing sound off that? Is that something that can be taken down or needs to be taken down from a dB standpoint, because it's just got a reflective surface right in back of it?
So we have, out of the box, we have the subwoofer kind of tuned down a little bit. So if you look at the DSP settings, I think the subwoofer default is at -9. So really it's really up to the integrator to fine tune depending on the system. The DSPs are very important, but really it's only at the crossover point, because the DSP is just ensuring that 140 hertz and up only goes to the speaker, but you can fine tune what's going on above 140 hertz. And I know a lot of integrators will, you just like to tweak it out, like to customize it for the customer. And that is completely possible, but do not change that crossover point, because that ensures that lighting and audio don't get interfered with.
Okay.
Overlap.
Fair enough. Hey, Allison, Ryan wanted to see the slide on the MSRP of the sample system again. Maybe you could point that out, and maybe let's just go through these 7 questions that we have real quick. I can either throw them. Thank you, Sean, saying it's a wonderful presentation. Yeah, that really was. Ryan wanted to see that slide of the MSRP. I'll just throw some stuff out here to you guys as you guys are looking at that slide. What if a client wants to add a couple of speakers or lights after the fact?
Just add them on, just put them in series into the rest of the system, and as long as it doesn't go over the maximum allowable, no problem.
Yeah, keep our calculations, up in front on that system. There you go. There's the slide on the MSRP. You guys know that at the partner stores, you all either through your accounts can look the stuff up. The SKUs are in the system as well. I also see Mike Marshall on this. Mike, how you doing, bud? I mean, he's a panelist. I wonder if you're joining us from the store, or are you there, Mike?
I am here.
what's going on? You wanted to join us today. What's your take on this?
Oh, this is amazing. This is definitely groundbreaking, and our partners really need another solution for the market. This is going to help out a lot.
Nice. Mike is our store manager, our branch manager in the St. Louis area. So good to have you with us. And I don't even know who gave him credentials to be on a panelist. I didn't. I think it was Alice. But I love this. A store manager on one of these is really fantastic. So Jerry asking about how the bass is. I mean, of course, we're going to say it's awesome. But Alex, you know, what was your perspective in going to this outdoor subwoofing? I mean, how did you approach that? What did you want to beat? What did you want? Where was the sweet spot?
Yeah, so there was a question that came up here about how does this compare to other systems out there. So a lot of you know, basically there's two buckets of how outdoor audio systems are wired. Some of the lower cost solutions, like Terrain, for example, has the subwoofer in line with the satellite speakers, which is great for convenience, but there's definitely a sacrifice in performance. Where other systems have the subwoofer separate on its own individual channel with its own individual DSP, and that's what really bumps up the performance of this. So when you're looking for a comparison standpoint, I would put the bass performance more in line with what we would get with those separate systems, like the separate systems. Like you look at our episode 12-inch burial, our 10-inch burial, our 8-inch burial. They're in line. This 10-inch subwoofer is in line with performance of the equivalent of the 10-inch that episode lineup, but far above the performance of something you get out of Terrain or where the subwoofer is wired on the same channel as a satellite speakers.
Got it. Love it. I love it. I love all aspects of testing. I mean, you can only do so much, but you know, you've got your ratings to come up with. How about temperature when we're talking about snow? I know Brian Isip was asking about how will it survive buried in snow?
Yeah, so we did all of our environmental testing in not only in controlled environments, but beta testing in Canada and Utah and other places with snow. If there's a concern, are these things going to be used in the winter when there's 2 feet of snow on the ground? You can simply just detach the speaker, put the rubber cap on, and it protects it for the winter in those situations. If it's something that will be used, it is built for being able to be mounted and installed in an environment from -30 to +60 Celsius, which is, well in line with Phoenix, Arizona, and Anchorage, Alaska. So yeah, we've gone through all the environmental testing on this, and we believe that it will stand up to the elements. And you always have that one option if it's really being used in an area with a lot of snow where you may not operate it in the winter. Take that speaker out, put in the hammer cap, which acts as a weather barrier to protect it from.
Well, Alex has been beta testing. He's got an awesome backyard. I can tell you that. Come on now. So Kirk asking about, let's talk really quickly about his question. We mentioned many times about connecting in series. Are these in series or actually in parallel?
Technically parallel. Basically, all your positives and negative, all your positives go together, all your negatives go together, and so it's
got it. Hey, Mike Marshall, let me bring you back in really quick because Jerry's question about is this available to order now? What, from your perspective, what do you have in the system? Your branch manager, what are you looking at? When a customer comes up and wants to have a conversation, are you seeing like all of those SKUs and we kind of go together? Give me a little bit of a walkthrough on, from your perspective, from the counter, helping somebody put together an order.
So basically, what we'll do is define what their space is, what they're trying to accomplish. This is not on our site yet, local site yet. So until that comes on, we're basically taking, information that we've gotten from these trainings and working it through the process. We actually had a meeting with a partner yesterday discussing this. So we probably got another 2 or 3 more weeks before we can get this, locked down from our website. But we direct them to Snap AV, and we use that as our presentational tool right now, and that seems to
Right.
work quite well.
Okay, that's good to know. We can at least, start the conversation, start the designing process and so forth. Good to know. Hey, Alex, shipping and product out in the fields, what's the supply chain looking like?
So right now, it is on snapab.com. It's on the C4 website. We have an additional shipment that's coming, should be here in about a week or two, and then we will begin to stock local from there. So you're looking at probably a week or two out from having this in store, or however long it takes from when we physically ship it to the local stores for it to be able to be available. I don't know those details, but essentially we will have a lot more product in 2 weeks. It's literally in the air right now, and should be here shortly to be able to send out and fulfill all of our partners.
Us in the marketing department we'll keep you guys informed on how that stuff is shipping. I know a number of stores are going to be actually setting up demo units. We're getting into springtime, so this is the time to have the discussion and start hearing the stuff. Hey, Brian, what is the minimum setup? Could you do 1 speaker in a system, or is there a minimum that is 2 speakers and 1 sub kind of thing? Good question.
For, if it's for demonstration purposes, which I would probably think a 2 speaker and a sub setup would be mostly, yeah, there's no reason why you can't do that. There's no minimum. It's really the maximum that you have to take into consideration. We're finding in the first 6 days of sales that the average system has 5.8 lights to 1 subwoofer. So that's kind of what we're seeing as the average going out the door. We thought it was going to be somewhere between 6 and 8. So we're pretty close there. But I think that's where we're seeing it. I think it will go larger than that, just because I think a lot of people are just trying it out for the first time to see its capabilities. I do see 6 to 8 as being the average, but there's no reason why you can't just do 2 speakers to sub.
Love it. That's all the questions we have, and we are right about the top of the hour. If there's anything else, we'll hold this open really quick. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to definitely make this mandatory that I've got somebody in the store with me for every webinar setup. Alex, fantastic job. I always love having you on here. And Allison, man, excellent job. That was your team really put together a competent presentation there.